When Pope Leo XIV refuses the handshake of the world's most powerful tech billionaire during their first meeting at the Vatican, the moment leaves global audiences stunned. But what the Pope does next reveals a truth about faith, technology, and humanity's future that will challenge everything we thought we knew about both men. Dawn light filtered through ancient stained glass windows as Pope Leo XIV knelt in silent prayer within his private study. The weight of his recent elevation to the papacy still felt surreal, barely 3 weeks since the white smoke had announced his election, making him the youngest pope in over a century at 52. His weathered hands, scarred from years of missionary work in war-torn regions, clasped together as he sought guidance for the day ahead. The Vatican's opulent surroundings felt foreign after decades spent in refugee camps and disaster zones. Golden artifacts and priceless artwork surrounded him, yet his simple wooden crucifix, a gift from Sudanese children he'd helped evacuate, remained his only personal decoration on the ornate papal desk. "Your Holiness," came a tentative voice from the doorway. Cardinal Martinez, his Secretary of State, approached with the cautious demeanor of someone bearing unexpected news. The elderly cardinal's usually composed expression showed traces of bewilderment. "What is it, Cardinal?" Pope Leo XIV rose slowly, his prayer beads still wrapped around his fingers. "We've received an unusual request, Your Holiness, most unusual." Cardinal Martinez cleared his throat nervously. "Elon Musk has contacted us directly through diplomatic channels. He's requesting an immediate audience." The Pope's dark eyes sharpened. With interest. The entrepreneur, Tesla and SpaceX? The same. He's already en route to Rome aboard his private aircraft. His representatives indicate he wishes to discuss matters of global significance with you personally. Cardinal Martinez shifted uncomfortably. "This bypasses all normal diplomatic protocols, Your Holiness. We haven't had time for proper security clearances or ceremonial preparations." Pope Leo XIV moved to the tall window overlooking St. Peter's Square, where early morning pilgrims were already gathering. Something stirred within him, not alarm, but a strange sense of anticipation, as if this unexpected meeting had been ordained. "When will he arrive?" the Pope asked quietly. "Within 2 hours, Your Holiness. His team is requesting complete discretion until after the meeting." The Pope remained silent for a long moment, watching the faithful below. Finally, he turned back to Cardinal Martinez, his expression carrying an authority that surprised even himself. "Make the arrangements, Cardinal, but there will be specific conditions I require." 37,000 feet above the Atlantic, Elon Musk stared through the oval window of his Gulfstream G650, watching clouds drift past like scattered thoughts. The world's richest man sat in contemplative silence, his usual restless energy, replaced by something deeper, a gnawing sense of purpose that had driven him to make this impulsive journey to Rome. "Sir, the media has caught wind of your flight plan," his chief of staff, Sarah Chen, reported from across the cabin's polished table. Her tablet displayed a cascade of breaking news alerts. CNN is already running with Musk's mystery Vatican mission. Twitter is exploding with speculation. Musk's jaw tightened as he scrolled through his phone. The headlines were predictably sensational. Tech titan seeks papal blessing. Musk's midlife crisis takes religious turn. Billionaire's secret Vatican summit shocks world. "They don't understand," he muttered, his South African accent more pronounced when he was frustrated. "They never understand." Sarah leaned forward, her expression concerned. "Elon, with respect, I'm not sure I understand either. Yesterday you were reviewing Starship test data, and suddenly you're demanding we clear your schedule for an unannounced meeting with the Pope. What's driving this?" Musk set down his phone and looked directly at her. The intensity in his eyes, the same focus that had revolutionized electric vehicles and commercial spaceflight, was unmistakable. "The future of human consciousness is at stake, Sarah. Artificial, Intelligence, Mars colonization, sustainable energy. These aren't just business ventures anymore. They're existential questions. He paused, his voice dropping. And I need to know if the Catholic Church sees what I see coming. His head of security, a former Navy SEAL named Brooks, spoke up from the cabin's forward section. Sir, Vatican security will want to coordinate our arrival. They're not accustomed to unscheduled visits from high-profile individuals. Let them coordinate, Musk replied with characteristic determination. But I'm not following some ancient protocol playbook. This isn't a publicity stunt or a diplomatic formality. Through the aircraft's satellite connection, news alerts continued flooding in. Fox News was already assembling panels of experts to analyze his motivations. Social media buzzed with theories ranging from a religious conversion to a secret business deal. But aboard the private jet, Musk remained focused on something far more profound than public speculation. He pulled out a worn copy of papal encyclicals he'd been studying, pages marked with his handwritten notes about technology, ethics, and humanity's future. 30 minutes to Rome, the pilot announced over the intercom. Musk closed his eyes briefly, knowing that whatever happened in the next few hours would either validate his instincts or prove that even the Vatican couldn't grasp the magnitude of the choices facing humanity. Chaos erupted through the Vatican's ancient corridors as news of Musk's imminent arrival spread like wildfire through the bureaucratic hierarchy. Cardinal Martinez hurried between offices, his usual measured pace replaced by urgent strides that echoed off marble floors worn smooth by centuries of papal business. "Impossible," declared Monsignor Torretti, the chief of protocol. His face blushed red as he rifled through leather-bound ceremonial manuals. "We cannot simply accommodate the world's most famous entrepreneur without proper diplomatic channels. There are procedures, Cardinal, procedures established over centuries." In the Vatican press office, Director Alessandro Forte paced frantically, while fielding calls from international media. "No, we cannot confirm the purpose of any potential meeting," he repeated into his headset for the dozenth time. "And no, there will be no advance photo opportunities." Cardinal Martinez burst through the door, his breathing labored. "Alessandro, kill all press releases. His Holiness wants complete media blackout until after the meeting." Complete blackout? Forte's eyes widened. "Cardinal, every major news network is already mobilizing Rome correspondents. The story is out." Meanwhile, in the Apostolic Palace's security center, Swiss Guard Captain Meller studied surveillance feeds showing growing crowds of reporters gathering outside Vatican walls. His radio crackled with constant updates from perimeter guards. "Captain," came a voice through his earpiece, "we have unconfirmed reports of 3 news helicopters requesting airspace clearance." "What are your instructions?" Muller rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of protecting both the Pope and an unpredictable billionaire. "Standard protocols for media flights. No exceptions." 3 floors above, Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Bertoli confronted Cardinal Martinez in the hallway. "This is madness, Martinez. Elon Musk operates by Silicon Valley rules, not Vatican tradition. What if he refuses ceremonial requirements? What if he makes public statements we cannot control?" "His Holiness was very specific," Martinez replied, clutching a folder of hastily assembled briefing materials. "He wants no standard diplomatic protocols, no ceremonial reception, no advance agenda." "Then what exactly are we preparing for?" Bertoli's voice carried decades of diplomatic frustration. In the papal apartments, Vatican staff scrambled to prepare appropriate meeting spaces. Housekeepers whispered anxiously about which room would be suitable for such an unconventional encounter, while Vatican archivists rushed to compile relevant documents about church positions on technology and artificial intelligence. "Cardinal." Martinez's phone buzzed with an urgent message. "Musk's aircraft approaching Roman airspace. ETA 22 minutes. He looked up at the frescoed ceiling, where Renaissance masters had painted scenes of divine revelation. Today, those ancient walls would witness something unprecedented, a collision between timeless tradition and the bleeding edge of human innovation. The question wasn't whether protocols would be broken. The question was, what would emerge from the wreckage? Black sedans rolled through St. Peter's Square as international media crews jostled for position behind security barriers. The morning sun cast long shadows across ancient cobblestones, while camera operators adjusted their lenses and reporters rehearsed opening lines for what promised to be the most unusual Vatican story in decades. "This is unprecedented," breathed BBC correspondent Rachel Hayes into her microphone. "In my 15 years covering the Vatican, I've never seen this level of security for an unscheduled meeting. Sources tell us Elon Musk's motorcade should arrive any moment." Captain Mueller's voice crackled through Swiss Guard radios. "All units maintain perimeter integrity. No media personnel beyond designated zones. Repeat, no exceptions." At the bronze doors of the Apostolic Palace, 2 Swiss guards in ceremonial dress stood at attention, their halberds gleaming despite the weight of unprecedented responsibility. Neither had trained for escorting a tech billionaire who operated by rules no protocol manual could anticipate. At the bronze doors of the Apostolic Palace, 2 Swiss guards in ceremonial dress stood at attention, their halberds gleaming despite the weight of unprecedented responsibility. Neither had trained for escorting a tech billionaire who operated by rules no protocol manual could anticipate. The first black Mercedes pulled through the Arch of Bells, its tinted windows reflecting the growing crowd of onlookers. Vatican staff pressed against interior windows, trying to catch glimpses of the man who had single-handedly disrupted multiple industries and now sought audience with Pope Leo XIV. "There!" shouted a photographer, his camera clicking rapidly. Second vehicle. Elon Musk emerged from the sedan with characteristic confidence, his dark suit crisp despite the long flight. His eyes swept the Vatican's towering walls with the same analytical intensity he'd once applied to rocket designs and electric vehicle engineering. This wasn't tourism, this was reconnaissance. Sarah Chen followed close behind, her tablet already buzzing with urgent messages from Tesla board members and SpaceX executives demanding explanations for their CEO's mysterious Vatican pilgrimage. "Mr. Musk," called out a CNN reporter from behind the barriers, "can you comment on the purpose of your meeting with Pope Leo XIV? Musk paused at the bronze doors, his expression unreadable. For a moment, the world's cameras captured him silhouetted against centuries of Catholic tradition, a man who'd made his fortune reimagining humanity's future, now seeking wisdom from an institution rooted in eternal truths. "Some conversations," he said simply, "are worth having in person." The bronze doors swung open with ancient solemnity. Vatican protocol officer Monsignor Toretti stepped forward, his earlier protests about proper procedures forgotten in the face of global scrutiny. "Mr. Musk, welcome to the Vatican. His Holiness is prepared to receive you." As the doors closed behind them, shutting out the media frenzy, Musk found himself walking through corridors where emperors and kings had once sought papal wisdom. Today, it was a man who dreamed of making humanity a multi-planetary species. The real meeting was about to begin. The massive doors of the papal audience chamber opened with ceremonial gravity, revealing Pope Leo XIV seated in quiet contemplation at the far end of the ornate room. Sunlight streamed through towering windows, illuminating Renaissance frescoes that had witnessed centuries of historic encounters between spiritual and temporal power. Elon Musk stepped forward with characteristic confidence, his footsteps echoing against marble floors as Vatican officials and security personnel positioned themselves along the chamber's perimeter. The weight of global attention felt palpable, even within these sacred walls. Pope Leo XIV remained seated, his expression serene, yet unreadable. Unlike the elaborate ceremonial robes typical of papal audiences, he wore simple white vestments that somehow made his presence more commanding, not less. His dark eyes tracked Musk's approach with careful attention. "Your Holiness," Musk said, as he reached the appropriate distance, extending his hand with the genuine warmth of one innovator greeting another. "It's an honor to meet you. Thank you for accommodating this unconventional request." The chamber fell silent, except for the distant sounds of St. Peter's Square filtering through ancient stone. Every eye focused on the Pope, expecting the customary exchange of diplomatic pleasantries that would signal the meeting's formal beginning. Pope Leo XIV looked directly at Musk's extended hand. For 3 heartbeats, he remained perfectly still. Then, with deliberate clarity, he kept his hands folded in his lap and made no move to reciprocate the gesture. The handshake refusal rippled through the room like a shockwave. Cardinal Martinez visibly tensed, his face betraying alarm at this breach of basic diplomatic courtesy. Monsignor Toretti's eyes widened with horror. In decades of Vatican service, he had never witnessed such a calculated snub of a visiting dignitary. Musk's hand remained extended for another moment, confusion flickering across his features. The man who had revolutionized multiple industries and commanded respect from world leaders found himself in utterly unfamiliar territory. "I see," Musk said quietly, slowly lowering his hand. His voice carried more curiosity than offense, the tone of someone encountering an unexpected equation that demanded solving. Vatican security exchanged worried glances. Sarah Chen shifted uncomfortably near the chamber's entrance, her diplomatic training screaming that this moment would generate international headlines within minutes. Pope Leo XIV finally spoke, his voice carrying absolute calm. "Mr. Musk, welcome to the Vatican." But he still made no gesture of greeting, no invitation to sit, no explanation for the unprecedented rejection of basic courtesy. He simply watched Musk with an expression that seemed to be waiting, though for what, no one in the chamber could possibly understand. The silence stretched unbearably as 2 of the world's most influential men faced each other across a chasm of inexplicable tension. Within minutes of the handshake refusal, the Vatican press office erupted into controlled chaos. Alessandro Forti's phone buzzed incessantly as international media outlets demanded immediate explanations for what appeared to be an unprecedented diplomatic disaster. "No comment at this time," Forti repeated into his headset while monitoring. Live news feeds on multiple screens. CNN had already broken into regular programming with "Breaking: Pope refuses Musk handshake in Vatican snub." In the main press room, veteran Vatican correspondent Maria Santos typed furiously on her laptop, "In an extraordinary breach of diplomatic protocol, Pope Leo XIV has refused to shake hands with Tesla CEO Elon Musk during their private audience. Sources confirm the unprecedented snub occurred moments ago in the papal chambers." BBC's Rachel Hayes broadcast live from St. Peter's Square. This is highly unusual, even shocking by Vatican standards. In modern papal history, we have no record of a pope refusing basic courtesy to any visiting dignitary, regardless of religious affiliation or political differences. The story exploded across social media platforms within minutes. Twitter erupted with hashtags "Your Pope snubs Musk" and "Vatican crisis" as speculation ran wild about potential causes for the apparent insult. In Washington, a State Department spokesperson fielded urgent calls from reporters. "We are monitoring the situation at the Vatican and seeking clarification through appropriate diplomatic channels." Tesla's stock price began fluctuating as financial markets reacted to headlines suggesting their CEO had somehow offended the leader of 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide. SpaceX board members demanded emergency conference calls to assess potential damage to their relationships with international partners. Cardinal Bertolli burst into the press office, his face grave with concern. "Alessandro, we need an immediate statement. The papal nuncio in Washington is receiving calls from the Secretary of State's office. This is escalating beyond a simple misunderstanding." "What can I possibly say?" Fort spread his hands helplessly. "I wasn't briefed on any special protocols for this meeting. For all I know, His Holiness had perfectly valid reasons that we simply don't understand yet." On Fox News, a panel of experts debated possible explanations. "Perhaps the Pope objects to Musk's secular worldview," suggested one analyst. "Or maybe this reflects Vatican concerns about artificial intelligence and technological disruption of traditional values." In the papal chambers, the meeting continued behind closed doors, while the world outside spiraled toward interpretations that bore no resemblance to reality. Neither Musk nor Pope Leo XIV had any idea that their private encounter was already being framed as an international incident. The Vatican's ancient walls had witnessed many crises, but rarely had misunderstandings spread so rapidly across a globally connected world, hungry for conflict where none might actually exist. After dismissing all Vatican officials with a quiet gesture, Pope Leo XIV led Musk into his private study, the same sparse room where the Pope had prayed at dawn, seeking guidance for this very moment. The contrast between the ornate audience chamber and this intimate space was striking. Simple wooden furniture, a single crucifix, and walls lined with theological texts rather than Renaissance masterpieces. Musk settled into a plain chair across from the papal desk, his analytical mind cataloguing details. No gilded artifacts, no displays of wealth, just the tools of contemplation and study. This wasn't the Vatican most people imagined. "You're wondering why I refused your handshake," Pope Leo XIV said directly, dispensing with diplomatic pleasantries, now that they were alone. "I am," Musk replied with equal directness. "In my experience, when someone refuses a basic gesture of respect, they're either making a statement or testing boundaries. Which is it?" The Pope's eyes carried an intensity that reminded Musk of his most brilliant engineers. Sharp, purposeful, unafraid of difficult questions. "Perhaps both. Tell me, Mr. Musk, why did you really come here? Not the reasons you gave my staff, but the truth that drove you to board a plane yesterday with no advance planning." Musk leaned forward, recognizing intellectual honesty when he encountered it. "Because I believe humanity is approaching a crossroads that will determine whether we survive and thrive or stagnate and decline. Technology, consciousness, our expansion beyond Earth. These aren't separate issues anymore. They're interconnected challenges that require wisdom, not just innovation. And you thought the Catholic Church might possess some of that wisdom? I thought you might be one of the few leaders on Earth who thinks in centuries rather than quarterly earnings reports," Musk answered. "Someone who understands that our decisions today will echo through generations." Pope Leo XIV studied him carefully. Most tech leaders who visit the Vatican want blessing for their ventures or photo opportunities to soften their public image. "You're asking different questions because I'm facing different problems. Artificial intelligence that could surpass human intelligence within decades. The urgent need to make life multiplanetary before some catastrophe eliminates us entirely. The challenge of preserving human consciousness and values as we merge with technology." Musk paused, his voice growing more serious. "These aren't business problems, Your Holiness. They're existential questions about what it means to be human." The Pope rose and moved to his small window overlooking the Vatican gardens. "And you believe the Church has insights relevant to those questions?" I believe you might be one of the few people who grasps their true magnitude, Musk replied. The question is whether you see me as part of the solution or part of the problem. Pope Leo XIV turned back, a slight smile playing at his lips. The answer to that, Mr. Musk, depends entirely on what you do next. What I do next, Musk repeated thoughtfully, then gestured toward the Pope's bookshelf. May I? Pope Leo XIV nodded, watching as Musk examined the collection of texts. Theological treatises sat alongside works on astrophysics, artificial intelligence, and climate science. A dog-eared copy of Teilhard de Chardin's writings on evolution and consciousness lay open beside papal encyclicals. Teilhard, Musk observed, genuine surprise in his voice. I didn't expect to find a Jesuit paleontologist on the papal reading list. His vision of the noosphere, humanity's collective consciousness evolving toward greater complexity and unity, resonates with questions you're asking about technology and human development, the Pope replied. Though I suspect you approach it from a different angle. Musk turned, his expression shifting from surprise to recognition. You're talking about the convergence of human and artificial intelligence, the possibility that consciousness itself might be evolving toward something we can't yet comprehend. Precisely. Teilhard saw evolution as directional, purposeful, not random mutation, but movement toward greater consciousness and unity. Pope Leo XIV moved closer, his voice gaining intensity. Your work with Neuralink, your vision of humans becoming a multiplanetary species, these could be expressions of the same evolutionary impulse he described. Most religious leaders see technology as a threat to human values, Musk said, settling back into his chair with new interest. You're suggesting it might be part of a divine plan. I'm suggesting that dismissing either faith or science impoverishes our understanding of what we're becoming. The Pope pulled a slim volume from his shelf, Vatican Statements on Artificial Intelligence and Human Dignity. The Church has been grappling with these questions longer than most tech companies have existed. Musk laughed, a sound of genuine appreciation. And here I thought I was coming to educate the Vatican about the future. The future, Pope Leo XIV said quietly, requires both technological capability and moral wisdom. You possess remarkable gifts in the first area, but do you understand the weight of the second? I'm beginning to. Musk studied the Pope with new respect. When you refused my handshake, you weren't rejecting me. You were challenging me to think beyond surface interactions. Conventional pleasantries would have wasted the opportunity for genuine dialogue. You didn't travel halfway around the world for empty diplomatic gestures. No, I didn't. Musk paused, processing this revelation. You wanted to see if I was serious about these questions, or just another tech CEO looking for papal approval. Pope Leo XIV smiled, the first warm expression he'd shown since Musk's arrival. And what have you concluded about your own seriousness, Mr. Musk? The question hung in the air between them, marking a turning point neither man had anticipated when this extraordinary day began. Pope Leo XIV moved to his simple wooden desk and picked up a photograph partially hidden beneath his papal correspondence. He held it for a moment before turning it toward Musk, an image of refugee children huddled around a small solar panel powering a single light bulb in a displacement camp. South Sudan, 2019, the Pope said quietly. I was serving as a missionary when civil war displaced these families. That solar panel was donated by a relief organization using technology your company helped develop. Musk studied the photograph, his expression growing serious as he recognized the Tesla solar cells integrated into the relief equipment. Those children had lost everything, parents, homes, any sense of security, but that single light allowed them to study after dark, to maintain hope that education might offer them a different future. Pope Leo XIV's voice carried the weight of lived experience. Technology became their bridge between despair and possibility. "I never saw reports about that deployment," Musk said, genuinely moved. "Because you were building at scale, thinking, in millions of units and global markets, you couldn't track every individual application." The Pope set the photograph down carefully. "But I lived with the human faces behind your innovation. Children whose futures changed because someone in California decided sustainable energy should be accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy." Understanding began dawning in Musk's eyes. "The handshake refusal was my recognition that you deserved more than conventional diplomatic courtesy." Pope Leo XIV faced him directly. "Most visitors want papal blessing for their ambitions. You've already received something far more valuable, confirmation that your work serves purposes beyond profit." Musk felt something shift inside him, a validation he hadn't realized he'd been seeking. "You were testing whether I understood the moral dimension of technological development. I was honoring the fact that you already understand it, even if you don't always articulate it that way." The Pope's voice grew stronger. "When people criticize tech leaders for playing God, they miss the point. The real question isn't whether humans should wield godlike power. We already do. The question is whether we'll wield it with godlike wisdom and compassion. And you think I can?" Pope Leo XIV picked up his simple wooden crucifix, the one gift from those Sudanese children that he'd brought to the Vatican. "I think you're already trying to. Mars colonization isn't about escape. It's about ensuring human consciousness survives. Sustainable energy isn't just business. It's stewardship of creation. Neuralink isn't just innovation. It's about expanding human potential." For the first time since arriving in Rome, Musk felt truly understood. Not the public perception of him, but the deeper motivation driving his seemingly impossible ambitions. "So where do we go from here, Your Holiness?" Pope Leo XIV gestured toward the French doors, leading to the Vatican gardens. "Walk with me, Mr. Musk. Some conversations require movement." They stepped into the afternoon sunlight, leaving behind the weight of ancient walls for pathways lined with centuries-old olive trees and carefully tended flower beds. The contrast was immediate. Instead of speaking across a desk, they moved side by side, their pace naturally synchronized. "The media outside those walls is probably crafting narratives about our meeting," the Pope observed, his white vestments catching the breeze. "They'll assume conflict because that's what sells stories." "They always do," Musk replied, his hands clasped behind his back as he walked. "Easier to report on disagreement than collaboration. But what if we gave them something different to write about?" Vatican gardeners worked quietly in the distance, tending to roses that had bloomed through dozens of papacies. Their presence reminded both men that some endeavors required patience measured in seasons and years, not quarterly reports. "Tell me your vision of humanity's future," Pope Leo XIV said. "Not the business plans or technical specifications, but the deeper purpose driving your work." Musk paused beside a fountain where water had flowed continuously for 3 centuries. "I see a species that doesn't just survive, but flourishes across multiple worlds. Humans enhanced by technology, but not diminished by it. Consciousness that can explore the cosmos while maintaining connection to something transcendent. And you believe technology can serve transcendence rather than replace it?" "I have to believe that," Musk said with quiet intensity. "Otherwise, everything I'm building becomes just elaborate machinery serving ego instead of evolution." Pope Leo XIV stopped walking and faced him. "That belief, that technology can serve higher purposes, makes you more of a theologian than most people realize. And your embrace of that possibility makes you more of a futurist than most religious leaders," Musk replied. They resumed walking, their conversation flowing with the ease of minds that had found unexpected common ground. Vatican security observed from respectful distances, noting the transformation in both men's demeanor from the tense arrival hours earlier. "The world needs to hear this perspective," the Pope said, as they approached a secluded chapel where popes had prayed for centuries. "The idea that faith and innovation can amplify each other rather than compete." Agreed. But how do we communicate that without it being dismissed as publicity or politics? Pope Leo XIV smiled with the same quiet confidence he'd shown when first refusing the handshake. By demonstrating it rather than simply declaring it, by showing the world what collaboration looks like between seemingly opposing worldviews. You're proposing we address the media together. I'm proposing we give them a story worth telling. The Vatican press room fell silent as Pope Leo XIV and Elon Musk entered together, their unexpected unity immediately reshaping the narrative journalists had been crafting all day. Camera flashes erupted as they took positions at the podium, the Pope's serene confidence contrasting with Musk's characteristic intensity. "Ladies and gentlemen," Pope Leo XIV began, his voice carrying the authority that had silenced the chamber during their initial encounter. "I understand there has been considerable speculation about my meeting with Mr. Musk, particularly regarding our initial greeting." BBC correspondent Rachel Hayes leaned forward, recognizing this moment would redefine the day's story. "Let me be clear about what occurred," the Pope continued. "I did not refuse Mr. Musk's handshake out of disrespect or disagreement. I chose a different form of greeting because conventional diplomatic pleasantries would have been inadequate for the conversation we needed to have." Murmurs rippled through the room as reporters frantically revised their prepared questions. "Your Holiness," called a CNN journalist, "can you explain what made this meeting require such unusual protocols?" Pope Leo XIV glanced at Musk, who nodded slightly. "Because we are living through a moment in human history that demands more than surface-level interactions between leaders. The questions facing humanity about consciousness, technology, our expansion beyond Earth. These require dialogue between faith and innovation, not competition." Musk stepped closer to the microphone. "His Holiness challenged me to think beyond business metrics and technical achievements. He helped me understand that the technologies we're developing, sustainable energy, space exploration, neural interfaces, these aren't just innovations. They're tools that could serve humanity's highest aspirations." "Mr. Musk," Presta Fox, news correspondent, "are you suggesting this meeting changed your perspective on the role of faith in technological development?" "I'm saying it clarified something I'd sensed but never articulated," Musk replied. "The most important question isn't whether we can build these technologies, but whether we have the wisdom to use them in service of human flourishing rather than just human advancement." Pope Leo XIV's voice grew stronger. "And I want to say something that may surprise those who expected conflict between us. In an age when technology is often portrayed as threatening to human dignity, I find it remarkable to meet someone whose innovations consistently expand human potential while seeking to preserve what makes us fundamentally human." The room held its breath as the Pope placed his hand on Musk's shoulder, the gesture of solidarity that photographers had been hoping to capture all day, now laden with meaning no one had anticipated. "Sometimes," Pope Leo XIV concluded, "understanding requires us to move beyond conventional expectations." As Musk's motorcade prepared to depart the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV walked with him to the bronze doors where their extraordinary encounter had begun hours earlier. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across St. Peter's Square, where media crews were already broadcasting the transformed narrative to a global audience hungry for understanding. "This morning, I thought I was coming to seek your perspective," Musk said quietly as they paused at the threshold. "I never expected to find a collaborator." Pope Leo XIV smiled, the same serene expression that had confounded Vatican officials all day. "Perhaps that's why I couldn't begin with a simple handshake. Some relationships require deeper foundations." He handed Musk a small, worn wooden cross. Not ornate Vatican craftsmanship, but something carved by human hands in circumstances of great need. This was made by one of those children in South Sudan, a reminder that our greatest technologies mean nothing if they don't ultimately serve the most vulnerable among us. Musk accepted the gift with reverence usually reserved for his most precious prototypes. "I'll keep this close, and I'll remember what you've taught me about the responsibility that comes with the ability to reshape the world." "There's something else," the Pope said, his voice carrying the weight of deeper revelation. "Your work with Neuralink, with making consciousness multiplanetary. These aren't just technological achievements, they're expressions of humanity's fundamental drive toward transcendence. The same impulse that has driven spiritual seekers for millennia." Musk's eyes widened as he grasped the full implication. "You're saying technology and spirituality might be different paths toward the same destination?" "I'm saying they must be. If either is to serve its highest purpose, science without moral guidance becomes mere manipulation of matter. Faith without engagement with reality becomes irrelevant mysticism. Together, they become tools for genuine human flourishing." As the bronze doors opened to reveal the waiting motorcade, both men understood they were stepping into a future neither had anticipated when the day began. The world's cameras captured their final handshake, warm, respectful, heavy with mutual understanding earned through honest dialogue. "This is just the beginning," Pope Leo XIV said as they clasped hands. "The conversations we started today need to continue, not just between us, but across every institution grappling with humanity's future." Within hours, the story had transformed global conversations about technology, faith, and humanity's future. Social media exploded not with outrage over a diplomatic snub, but with wonder at the possibility of collaboration between seemingly opposing worldviews. The hashtag Handshake refused evolved into deeper dialogue as millions shared their own insights about bridging ancient wisdom and modern innovation. In Silicon Valley, tech leaders found themselves discussing questions they'd avoided for years, whether their innovations truly served human flourishing or merely human convenience. Conference rooms that typically focused on market disruption suddenly hosted conversations about moral responsibility and the long-term implications of artificial intelligence. In seminaries and churches worldwide, religious scholars began exploring how ancient wisdom might guide humanity through unprecedented technological transitions. Theology students discovered that questions about consciousness, transcendence, and human destiny weren't threatened by scientific advancement. They were illuminated by it. Tesla's stock price stabilized and then surged as investors recognized that their CEO had gained something more valuable than papal endorsement: a moral framework for navigating the ethical complexities of artificial intelligence and human enhancement. SpaceX partnerships with international organizations strengthened as the company's mission gained recognition as serving humanity's deepest aspirations, not just its technological capabilities. In his papal study that evening, Pope Leo XIV returned to his simple wooden desk and the photograph of refugee children studying by solar-powered light. Cardinal Martinez found him there, still processing the day's events. "Your Holiness," the Cardinal said carefully, "your approach today was unlike anything in my diplomatic experience. How did you know it would succeed?" Pope Leo XIV looked up from his evening prayers. "I didn't know it would succeed, Cardinal. I only knew that conventional approaches would have failed. Some of history's most important conversations happen when we abandon script and speak truth to truth." Meanwhile, aboard his private jet crossing the Atlantic, Musk studied the wooden cross and realized something profound had shifted in his understanding of purpose. His phone buzzed with messages from SpaceX engineers and Tesla developers, but he found himself thinking instead about refugee children and the moral weight of godlike technological power. The refused handshake that had scandalized the world for 12 hours had become something else entirely, a symbol of what becomes possible when leaders choose substance over ceremony, understanding over assumption. As both men faced the challenges ahead, they carried forward a shared recognition. Humanity's future would be determined not by technology alone, nor by faith alone, but by the wisdom to unite both in service of our highest aspirations. And somewhere in South Sudan, children still studied by the light of donated solar panels, unaware that their simple gratitude had helped reshape the world's understanding of what true leadership could accomplish.